Ahoy toy, welcome to Transfixed, the channel that is ready to chug, 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 chug. Well, here we are. I have to talk about this. I'm really reconsidering my collecting habits right now. I have gone from CHUG to Masterpiece, and I'm really considering returning to the CHUG scale. In case anyone doesn't know, CHUG is kind of the fan-christened initialism for classics, Henkei, universe, and generations, which is sort of the mainline retail scale, smaller than Transformers Masterpiece, and those four lines kind of encompass that scale, right? Although now we're into War for Cybertron trilogy with the Siege and Earthrise and now Kingdom releases, and I really have to say I think the quality is improving. Yes, the price point does seem to be creeping up. Sometimes they're playing a bit fast and loose with the price points, but I give Hasbro a lot of crap when it comes to their 6-inch figures and even the 3 3/4-inch figures and the Transformer stuff. But I gotta give credit where it's due. I've really seen some improvements. And this Grimlock figure really put it over the edge for me. I was really happy to see this figure, mostly because one of my main gripes with Grimlock was every Grimlock figure seems to have these gorilla proportions with the shoulders way up. Now, I've complained about this before. A long time ago, when I was still getting started with this channel, one of the first fixes I did was Grimlock's shoulders. I've rotated these pieces 90 degrees backwards, I think it was, to try to lower them because they're just, the shoulders are too high for his body, and I've banged on about this before, so I tried to fix it. All the Grimlock figures do this, but if you look at the cartoon and the original toy, his shoulders were in line with his torso, with his neckline, and I was really happy when this studio series, I forgot to mention the studio series, of course, now they're doing the 86 movie characters. I'm really happy to see that they had normal shoulder proportions, and he's a big chunky chungus, and I love it. When I got this guy, I was happy to find him in the store. There's only one. I brought him home, and I just had this big goofy smile on my face. He was so much fun. And I don't really know where to begin, but I guess I'll just begin with Grimlock. I love the proportions. I love the quality. He looks like Grimlock. You know, there's a bit of extra detail. You could take that or leave that. I mean, the thing with the Masterpiece usually is they've gone more and more cartoon accurate these days. And I really like that, actually. I like that look. A lot of people don't. That's okay. But they've done it with some detail on the texture, stuff that you can kind of squint and ignore if you're like me and you just want the overall G1 cartoon aesthetic, because that's what people our age grew up with. So, but they've also been improving things along the way. Now, why am I thinking of returning to this type of collecting? Well, because, as I got older and had a bit more disposable funds, and these Masterpiece characters kept coming out, it was great to have that cartoon aesthetic captured in a toy form. We paid more for that, right? So a lot of the typical stuff in Masterpiece was a real-world accurate alt mode or vehicle mode, and then a cartoon accurate bot mode. And that's the sweet spot for me. I do like that.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
But we're starting to see that make its way into the main line now. And they're also taking some of the innovations from Masterpiece, and it's trickling down into the main line as well. And this is kind of the model that cars go by, right? If you look at luxury cars, when they introduce features, they eventually make their way down into the more entry-level cars as I guess the technology gets cheaper. For example, like Cadillac had a big car a long time ago that could shut off some of the cylinders to save gas when it was driving on the highway. You see that now in compact cars. Heated seats, power steering used to be only in luxury cars. Power brakes used to be only in luxury cars. Air conditioning, like all those things start off in the luxury line and make their way down. And I think Masterpiece is doing that. A lot of them have done this. They've got pinned joints. They're doing things like, look at this leg transformation, right? I mean, it's not exactly the same, but Grimlock has this really cool thing where this kind of flips around. I didn't even understand how it works, but if you have the Masterpiece Grimlock, like this is a weird angle, but this works. And then they have this thing expands out and then goes like this, like that. I believe that's the tail, right? And then it's look at how it collapses in. I mean, this is ingenious. Now, this toy doesn't do that, but it does sort of a cost-effective way. This just folds right over, and then this opens out. You move the tail down. I don't like this red plastic piece, but it's only visible in the bottom of the alt mode. And then this goes, you end up with the same thing. The tail is up here where, after the knee collapses, you've got the tail, right? So it's kind of taking an inspiration for Masterpiece, but simplifying it in a way that doesn't cost so much and doesn't have as many parts, right? Because parts count is really what drives up the price. Also, you see this pin and swivel, right? This is something that looks really good and works really well, and it's solid on a toy. Whereas they're getting away from ball joints, right? And this is the same thing on the old Grimlock, Masterpiece Grimlock. They're doing this, and I'm going to show some more examples of that. And yes, I added a sticker because this cloudy plastic didn't show it. And I'm super thrilled that they're doing more Dinobots. My favorite one is Slag, and he's coming out next according to the leaked photos. Super happy about that. And look, he's got the blue visor. This one switches between red and blue. But you know, this is of course taking a cue from the movie and the cartoon. So let's look at some other examples. Oh, and they've also done something that the Masterpiece doesn't have. They've got a swivel up these wings, right? On the Masterpiece, they only go in and out. On this one, you can pose them a bit more to your liking. You know, they don't have a joint in the fingers like this one has. You don't need that, right? That's where they are able to do this at a lower cost, but very good quality. You know, look at this. This even cleans up nicely. You don't have the tail sticking out the back there if you care about that. Another thing I enjoy is that they're easy to transform, which makes them fun. One of the things that Masterpiece keeps changing is the complexity of the transformation. I just don't like having to sit there for half an hour and watch a video tutorial on how to transform it. The old Transformers toys were very simple, yes. Too simple? Sure. I mean, that was a product of its time. You know, all I really wanted is a more articulated original one. If they could do a G1 toy that had more joints, I'd be happy with that, which is almost what we're getting now. Now, this is an older Masterpiece figure. This is MP12 knockoff, actually, but I have the original one too. But it doesn't nail the cartoon appearance. But I mean, when it first came out, we thought it did. It was like, oh my god, this looks a lot like the cartoon, and it's great. This is still easy to transform. I can do it without instructions. But you see, it's got these, you know, older ball joints, right? And then the new one, oh, actually, the new one has that too. That's the same.
That is why you fail.
But look at the head sculpt. The head sculpt is actually better on this one. Something about it is just vibrant with the eyes and the faceplate. I got too much light in here. Anyway, I think maybe I'll find an oversized version of this if they make one and replace the head, because I think that head is better than the Masterpiece one. And you know, they've taken some stylistic liberties here. This is a kind of a Cybertronian version of a Lamborghini, of course, but it's so good. You know, I wish that they could have done something with the backpack here, but again, you know, this is a lower price point figure. But it's fun. I like to actually flip this back and forth. This one as well, yes, I would transform this back and forth occasionally. But here is one I would not. Now, Sunstreaker is an excellent Masterpiece. I think it's one of the more challenging ones to get into its cartoon-style robot mode because of the proportions, right? They have to do a faux chest for that. And it's not terribly hard to transform. It's not like the third-party ones. The third-party ones are really bad when it comes for transformation. I think most of them are over-engineered, especially X-Transbots. Just personally, I'm no longer buying X-Transbots. I love that they have the cartoon aesthetic down, and I bought a bunch of them, but I never want to transform those figures. It is not fun, and the way they put screws through joints, I just don't want to transform it. Luckily, Takara rather, does not do that, so, you know, these ones are still transformable, but, I mean, this one, I'll sit and transform it back and forth several times when it sits on my desk. Whereas this one, I've got to set aside some time. And this is good. I mean, even though they've taken, again, some liberties with the design, it looks great. I mean, I know that that's Sunstreaker. Well, of course, the Diaclone mold. This is Corden, but yeah, it also gives me an excuse to buy these because maybe I've already got Sunstreaker represented and I can afford a Diaclone. So I would be happy to have these guys to represent those characters, should I say? Retroactive characters, retconned. But I have a lot of fun with these. And again, they've got these nice solid joints. This is something that's showing up in Earthrise and Siege. And the Combiner Wars, I guess, was the previous generation. And, you know, they had some nice designs, but whew, the combining gimmick really got in the way of that. There was a lot of... yeah, they weren't the best. This is really a step up. I'm just so happy with the quality of these. Maybe for a more recent comparison or more fair comparison, since to get away from Masterpiece. I mean, this was from the Classics line. This is a KO of the Sideswipe mold, which was used to be deep cover, and I've rotated these knees around. But I mean, this is just, it's not good. I mean, the way these feet are janky, this, you know, the knees just it's the back of the car hanging off to the side. and this just rotates around. It's not great. It doesn't even look right. And the worst part is, like, look back here. This whole shoulder joint swings around, and there's nowhere for it to plug in properly, as far as I've ever been able to tell. You'd think that that could snap into place somewhere, but it's just super janky. And yeah, this is a KO, but that's the design of Hasbro Takara. It's no good. This looks a lot better. I mean, yeah, he's barrel chested, but oh man, what a much better figure this is. This just looks amazing in comparison. Look how far we've come in a few years. Much, much better, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Now, if you do want more accuracy, sometimes third party fills that gap. I mean, this is an updated version of the Sideswipe mold, or Red Alert rather in this case, of course. Some of the transformation is different to make him cartoon accurate, because I guess Sunbow decided, oh, well, we can actually draw this a bit more cartoon accurate when when the second version of those characters came out, right? Red Alert was drawn differently from Sideswipe, is what I'm saying. And yes, this looks more like the cartoon, and that's why I have it. But I have the other one as well, and I'm keeping it because I don't know, I might go back to the old Red Alert. This is good. It's not a bear to transform, but it's certainly not as easy as this. So is it worth it? Again, you can see they've got this style of pins. It's funny because Mattel actually uses that for their action figures too. Like the DC figures have this sort of swivel and, what do you call this, out to the side, right? It doesn't work well for human characters, but it's great for robots. You keep the I hate to say it, robot diaper shape, but it does look a lot better than having the joint down here under the waist. This is the way to do it. Oh, and of course we have to talk about the leaders. This is how it gets. I mean, here they have not done that type of hip ratchet. This I hate the way this flap is designed on the Masterpiece Megatron. I don't like it's got this sort of, looks like a lightning bolt zigzag here, and that's because the panel flips out on an angle. I have no idea why they did that. I know there's a third-party version that has corrected that. This is just a disaster right here. I mean, it is complicated to get a transformer to turn into a gun. I have never transformed this figure since I've had it in my collection. Never. It's just not worth it for me. I have a reissue of the G1 that I do enjoy transforming back and forth. Of course, it looks ridiculous in the robot mode, but it's fun. And I'm willing to have a compromise in between the two. And I think that's what the mainline is nowadays. I mean, to never want to transform a figure is just a mistake, I think. It's a bit too far in that direction. Like, again, I love how this looks, but I just wouldn't transform it. The same goes for MP44 and these X-Transbots figures. I never transformed them. I've only transformed them once each. Now, Hot Rod is also an interesting one. Hot Rod's a favorite character of mine, and I'm sad to feel like they missed the mark on this one. I was really excited for this figure to come out, to get a Masterpiece Hot Rod, but I didn't buy it when it came out. I was disappointed with the proportions, so I ended up getting the KO. They just didn't nail his signature shape. I mean, even the G1 toy and cartoon both were in line with the shape of his torso. It had his distinctive shape with the kind of angles at the bottom. Now this one here on my Hot Rod, I try to hide that by not transforming the side panels. I leave them kind of out on an angle where they're supposed to be tucked in behind. But then he ends up with this rectangular chest. There's barely an angle on here. And he's got these big headlights hanging on the bottom. He's got this flap in front of the ball joints here like this. This is not good. It is fun to transform, I'll give it that. It's a fun little figure, not hard to transform, but it just doesn't have the correct shape. So, of course, the new figure, which I don't have yet, but here's a comparison. A bit on the small side, but they're also doing a nice Rodimus Prime, of course, which looks great, I think. Price is high? Yes, but I'm personally willing to pay a higher price for higher quality. I think that's fair. I'd like it if the prices were more consistent and they weren't as high, yes. But I mean, if I can spend less than a Masterpiece and get something that displays the character well and is fun to transform, then I'm happy to pay that price. On the new one, look, they don't even have the screw holes like the Masterpiece has screw holes visible here. This shape is all wrong. I had to paint the edges because there's maroon showing here where this panel just breaks. You know, it is the best Hot Rod until the new one came along. Again, there's another example of the Masterpiece features making their way into the main line is, you know, this flip down visor that he had in the movie that had in the Masterpiece toy is in the new Hot Rod. You can actually do that. I don't think that has a matrix that goes on his chest, but I'm okay with that. I don't really care. I'd rather not have that and have a good sculpt that looks like the character. I'm holding them up here because because this is a KO, so the feet are a bit loose. Now, hot controversial take, I think even Fans Toys is slipping sometimes. This blur looks great, but it's not perfect, and this one's not perfect either. But this one's fun, man. I love transforming this back and forth. The blur is just going to stand on my shelf. I'm probably not going to transform it because some parts of it are over-engineered. This thing with the feet, it's got this stupid flap down here with die-cast and plastic that just isn't even necessary. It doesn't even do anything important in the alt mode. It doesn't need to be there. And this blur looks great. It's got some cool transformation stuff to bulk out the chest. These flaps go on the bottom of the vehicle mode. You know, it could be a little bit better the way this tabs in. The face sculpt doesn't quite nail it. But by God, it looks really close. And it's a lot of fun to transform. And that is important for a transformer. So to sum up, they're really winning me back here. Not winning me back to Hasbro, because of course, apart from the third party, all the Masterpiece stuff is Hasbro too. But they're winning me back to the main line. I think they've heard some of our complaints. I wish the people running G.I. Joe would hear our complaints, because those guys do not know what they're doing. But I think Transformers is Hasbro's priority as far as these money-making toys and films that they've got. And we're getting some improvements here, and it's enough that these toys actually make me happy to have in my collection. So yeah, I don't know if anybody else is considering this. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I'm going to be selling off some of my Masterpiece figures. What I'm personally doing is I'm going to have the G184 guys represented in Masterpiece and G1 form, and then some of the movie guys, and then I think most of the rest of the stuff I'm just going to do the mainline CHUG Earthrise and whatever you call it. Yeah, another thing that pushed me to this decision was getting X-Transbot's lock. Now, I know that they're doing something. I don't know what exactly. They're re-engineering the lock somehow. I don't know if we're all going to get free replacements or some parts. I don't know what they're doing. But as soon as I took that thing out of the package, I was disappointed. I waited a long time for it. I even passed on the Fans Toys Coot, thinking that X-Transbots had a better looking, more cartoon accurate cup. I'm actually quite happy with the Legends Titans Return one. This figure is a lot of fun, and it looks pretty close to the movie. I'm quite happy displaying this. And yeah, now that we can get Blur and Springer in a representation that looks like the character and can be transformed back and forth in a fun way, I'm back, baby. They got me. Yeah, so Lock is going to get sold. Blur is probably going to get sold. And I'm keeping these. They're also in scale, which is nice. And there's more characters available, right? You can display them next to a bunch of Sharkticons and other stuff that we don't have in Masterpiece. Or the scale is all wonky, right? We even have Quintessons now. Who would have thought Hasbro would actually make a Quintesson? Finally. It seems like a no-brainer. They should have done it a long time ago. But now we have it. And I think the scale of those is better than the X-Transbots. If you look at the cartoon and the movie, yes, the size of the Quintessons does shift up and down from time to time. But in my mind's eye, I see them as being waist high to a car-sized Transformer. I don't want a Quintesson that is bigger than most of my Autobots. So that's me. That's what I think. I guess it's a good thing. I feel like I'm complaining, but I'm happy. I'm happy with the new stuff that we're getting. I think it's fantastic. I know they're shifting towards Beast Wars now. That's fine. I don't really care about Beast Wars, but happy for those who do. Anyway, that's enough. I think I've made my point. What do you guys think? Are you happy with the mainline stuff? Do you hate it? Are you sticking with Masterpiece? Am I crazy? Anyway, let me know in the comments. I read them all. Thank you guys for watching this and listening to me ramble on. Good night.